I read an article today that the government is considering regulating navigation apps. And these are, your phone apps. Microsoft or Google has them, or Apple has them. I mean, they're great because you have your smartphone and now you have a GPS. And it used to be, if you wanted navigation, you had to have it built into your car. That was very expensive, $2,000 or $3,000 extra to have navigation. And then they came up with things that you can buy. You plug it into your cigarette lighter, and it has a little suction cup. They were $150, $200, but you'd have to lug it around, right? I mean, so if I rented a car, I didn't have one of those with me, so you'd have to pay an extra $10 a day to have the navigational thing on your rent-a-car. But then all these apps and phones, nobody needs that anymore. It's all obsolete. If you got a telephone, which you get for practically nothing, just sign a contract, they'll give you a phone, and it comes with navigation. It works anywhere in the world, and it talks to you. You don't even have to look at your phone, really. You set your phone down, and it's just going to give you turn-by-turn directions anywhere you want to go. Well, apparently the government is saying this is a hazard because all these people that are using their phones to navigate, well, they're going to be distracted. They're going to be looking at their phones, and so they're going to get into an accident. No, they're not. This is a bunch of nonsense. Did they forget? What did we have? If you don't have navigation, how do you get around? A map. I mean, I used to carry around in my car this big, thick road atlas, right? Rand McNally with all these pages, and it was complicated. And sometimes you'd have big maps, and they'd unfold. I mean, sometimes you can't even see the road because the map is in front of your face. Or you're looking down the seat next to you, and you're trying to figure out this map. You know how much more distracting a map is and an atlas than an iPhone? I mean, it's night and day. Yet they're trying to say, oh, no, we better regulate this. This is too dangerous. Now, you know who's in favor of it? The automobile companies. Why? Because they want to sell you an expensive built-in navigation system. They don't want people saying, oh, I'll pass on that because I got my iPhone. They want to regulate the iPhones so that you have to buy the expensive equipment. This is the government coming in. I actually read in this article about it where a motorist was pulled over by a cop because he was on his cell phone. But he wasn't talking. He was using the map. And so he told the policeman, hey, I'm not on the phone. I'm just using the navigation. And the cop ticketed him anyway. If he was reading a map, he would have said, oh, okay, fine, no problem. But he's got his iPhone. Now, fortunately, the guy beat the ticket. But, this is so ridiculous. I mean, is it possible that there might be a guy who's distracted by his iPhone and he gets into an accident? Sure, it's possible. But more people would have gotten into accidents if they were using maps. Or what if the guy just has no idea where he's going, right? And he has to make a sharp turn. See, sometimes when you're just navigating, you're following the signs, and you're all the way on the left, and now all of a sudden you see, oh, my exit is coming up, and you got to make a sharp turn, and you got to, you might get into an accident. But if you have your cell phone on with navigation, it tells you, in advance, oh, I got to move to the right because my exit is coming up. I mean, these things have got to prevent far many more accidents. The easier we make it, the cheaper we make it for motorists to know where they're going than to just be like, I have no idea, I'm just flying blind and making last-minute turns because they're about to miss their exit. I mean, this is all BS government trying to come in and trying to pass regulations where they are not needed. There are a lot more things that are more dangerous than even talking on your cell phone. The studies show that probably the most dangerous thing is to have kids in your car, right? You got kids in the back seat. You got two kids, they're fighting, they're distracting. You're constantly looking back at the kids. That's part of the government, too, because the government says you got to put your kids in the back seat. They can't ride in the front seat, right, because of the airbags, which they require, right? So now you got to put your kids in the back seat. And so now it's, you got to turn your head all the way around, when you want to, engage your kids. It was probably safer when they were in the front seat because you were less likely to get in an accident when you just had to gaze to the right versus turn your head all the way around. And deal with your kids. Meanwhile, I remember when I was a kid, I was in the front seat and the back seat because I would climb over. See, we didn't have any seat belts. We didn't have any restraint. We had nothing. I would climb back and forth between the front seat and the back seat. I was like, the car was like a gymnasium. It was like an apparatus. We were standing up in the seats. We were running back and forth. I remember we had a station wagon, and we used to call the back, the way back. And, I would go back there. There was no seats back there. I'd hang out back there, climb to the back seat, climb to the front seat. We were all over the place. We're so loaded up now with rules and regulations on safety that it's, we're making ourselves less safe because we're so concerned. And this is an example trying to regulate these apps. Why? Why do they need regulation? You know why? Because, again, the car companies, and now the government's in bed with GM and Ford. Hey, they want to be able to sell an expensive add-on to the car. They don't want anyone having a cheap alternative. So that's the impetus. But I'd hate to see who knows what kind of crazy, ridiculous regulation that they're going to come up with. And then how are you going to enforce it? How are they going to enforce this? All right, the government never plans it. They just want to seize the opportunity to put their nose in another place where it doesn't belong and just create problems where the free market is solving problems. Navigation is a fantastic innovation that makes our lives easier and safer, and the government wants to screw it up because they can't leave well enough alone.